We've heard the argument that $2 billion is needed across 76 counties for universities, community colleges, for water and sewer projects across the state. Interest rates are at historic lows, so it's the cheapest borrowing rate. What's your argument against that then? What is the main crux of the argument why you don't think this bond should pass?
Well, the main thing is I believe that, well, first of all, this is an omnibus debt bill, and I think that all of these items should be considered individually rather than in a lumping together of these projects and prioritized based on their importance. And I think that we should pay as we go and fund them now rather than taking on a debt and leaving those debt payments and substantial interest over time to future generations to pay. And I do believe that we have the ability to do that in our state. We were told that there was a $445 million surplus in 2015 alone. If you just based on that surplus trying to fund these projects, every single one in that bond list could be funded within 5 years on that alone. But we were told that North Carolina revenue grew 6% last year. I think it's really just a matter of prioritization from our legislators, and we should vote against this bond, save ourselves all of those interest payments over the next 20 to 25 years, and instead put that towards prioritizing important projects.
So you would prefer that they sort of set up a savings account and use things like this, revenue surpluses and pay for things like that in the future, rather than treating it sort of like a home, I guess, where obviously you don't have $200,000 in cash to buy a home, so you have to borrow against that. But you'd prefer them to try to find a fund, basically.
I don't think that there's a need to even have a savings account. They are talking about this as though these projects cost so much that we just don't have the money to pay for them. However, $2 billion, to put that into perspective, our state's operating budget, that's less than 10% of our state's operating budget. So I think that we could reprioritize and find room to fund these projects based on their importance. Asking the residents of this state to vote on an omnibus bill, we're not able to look at these individually and vote on them based on their importance. So we could have things that are going to be detrimental to our state if they're not funded, combined with things that are considered fluff. A lot of legislators have come out and called this a Christmas tree and pork barrel spending because of a lot of the projects. Representative Michael Speciale came out and said that in his op-ed about why he does not support this bond, he stated that many of those university system projects were not even requested by the UNC Board of Governors during the budget appropriation process. Our legislators need to be looking at these items individually and appropriating them in the budget process.
Part of your argument, too, is that in the past it had been considered a transportation bond. Of course, we now know that the roads have been taken out. That was sort of a political disagreement between the Senate and the governor as well. Would you feel any better about it if it was a transportation bond, or it just doesn't matter, you don't want any debt, period?
I would look at that proposal, but I consider a bond to be such an extreme measure. You're talking about funding our state operations with debt. So most likely I wouldn't support it, but I do know that several legislators came out and said that is the reason that they do not support this bond, is because of the bait and switch kind of process that occurred there, where the message got out that it was going to be for transportation, connect and see, and then it was changed, that was removed, and yet there's still that label associated with this bond. And the polling that was done, the only poll that I've seen related to this bond, the majority of voters, Democrats and Republicans that were polled, thought that the infrastructure spending within this bond meant funding for transportation items and roads. So there's misinformation out there that we're trying to correct.
And you have had some success on local level reconvincing people, right?
Well, absolutely. Let's see, this week actually, I was in Haywood County because their commissioners, I was informed that their board was prepared to adopt a resolution in support of the bond. And I went to speak to them and I informed them that there was some misinformation even within their own resolution. One of those was that they thought there was still transportation funding within it. And when the county attorney looked over the resolution, or looked over the information that I had brought up and fact checked it, he determined that they needed to go ahead and pull that resolution and not make a statement of support. And actually, that's the same thing the next night. Appalachian State University, their student government was prepared to adopt a resolution in support of the bond as well, because their chancellor had sent emails to the entire student body with bond, what I would call propaganda. But so the student body was prepared to adopt a resolution in support, and they allowed me to speak for 10 minutes before they did so. And when I did that, they decided to go ahead and pull consideration at this time and go back and do more research.
All right, we're out of time, but if people want to get more information, the website is?
Againstthebond.com, and our Facebook page is facebook.com/againstthebond.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you.